Hey, my name's Xenu, and you're listening to Anti Moonboy News. Yeah, we got a great episode for you guys today. We're going to be covering Clavicular, name-dropping Monero. We're also going to be taking a look at the latest in age verification regarding Linux and compliance, and oh, it got worse from last week's episode, where we covered the growing amount of laws about age verification. Well, now it's been pushed through in Systemd. So we're going to be talking all about that. There's a lot to go over there as well. And some other news in the crypto space, including Saylor being an idiot. What else is new? As always, you can go to antimoonboy.com/merch. If you'd like to buy a t-shirt, just sold one today, which I'm pretty happy about. Or if you want to donate, xmrchat.com/Xenu. But to kick things off, we're going to be talking about the name drop of Monero by Clavicular. Clavicular is one of the most popular streamers in the West today. He is a looksmaxer, and he is leading a revolution for the Zoomers and the Gen Alphas, and regardless of what you think of him, he's very popular. And he does these live streams where he basically just films himself going out to the club or whatever. And on a recent video, he name-dropped Monero. And actually, he in the second video too, which I just found out about, he reacts to the Twitter thread about this. And one thing I have to point out here is that I think a lot of people might be misinterpreting his reaction. Now, I think the fans of this program probably are going to see where I'm going to take this, but Clavicular, he's not talking about Monero to pump his backs, if he even has any. Rather, he's name-dropping Monero because it is used on darknet markets. And Clavicular is an influencer. He's someone who knows about things that only cool people know about. And as we're going to break down here, him talking about Monero is actually an incredibly... It's a big signal that young people are now starting to gravitate towards what is now the cool cryptocurrency, which is Monero. And so I talk about this a lot in Darknet Market Maximalism, but this is really a continuation of my manifesto, where I really firmly believe that the aura from the usage of a cryptocurrency on darknet markets is what gives it its standing amongst the youth. It gives it soul, and it gives it this spirit of defiance. And Clavicular, who is a controversial figure, he has had run-ins with the law. He's name-dropping Monero now. So this is really interesting stuff, and it's a signal that Monero is continuing to grow. Now, the clip of him saying Monero, he says it only briefly, right? It's very short. It's only 12 seconds. So I'm going to play it. I'm going to play it for you guys. And I'm going to break down why I think he's talking about darknet markets. So let's give it a listen.
It's probably best if you just stay in just USDT. Yeah, stay out of all the crypto shit.
Except for XMR.
All right, so very short clip, right? Not a lot happening here, but basically it's Clavicular, who only says like 3 words in this clip. It's at the very end. And his friend, who I don't know who his friend is, they're sitting together in a car talking. And his friend, he's basically saying how a lot of people think about crypto. He's saying that it's very scammy. You probably should just stay in the stablecoin, like Tether. You should probably just use Tether or whatever. And you should avoid all these cryptocurrency projects because they're all scams. This is what he's saying. In response to this, and I know you guys can't see the video, but I'll try to describe it. Clavicular, he looks directly at the camera, and he gives this smile, this wry smile, and he says, except for XMR. And he may as well have winked into the camera. That's how unsubtle this was. And what he is saying is, listen, when it comes to utility, everything's a scam. However, if you know, you know. Except for XMR. And he looks at the camera, he smiles. If you know, you know. And that right there is Darknet Market Maximalism. That's the aura of Monero. Because it's not just speculation. It's actually being used in Clavicular as someone who has talked about buying steroids and also buying drugs. He knows. He's not going to say it, but he's hinting quite heavily to his audience, I've used Monero. I've used it on darknet markets. He's not outright saying it though, but it's pretty obvious if you watch the clip, like, oh, that's what he's indicating. This just comes with the territory, guys. Monero is actually used. It's used by people who don't actually care about cryptocurrency. It's used as a utility. It's used like gas for your car, right? People are buying it because they want to get high. That's it. And it seems like Clavicular is probably one of these people. Maybe he does have a bag. I don't know. But that doesn't even matter. What matters is one of the leading influencers amongst young people, and amongst young people who are very much in defiance of what is expected of them. And this is very important. He's someone who is essentially like the Andrew Tate of the Generation Alpha kids. You know, like the 18-year-olds. Because I think he's only like 19, maybe 20. He's young. He's very young, but he's got a ton of influence. And listen, just look at how he says it, right? He knows. And he's signaling only cool kids know about this. We're going to soon have Monero name dropped in hip-hop songs. That's going to happen soon. We're going to see it appearing more and more in television shows. Because you can't keep this reality hidden for that long. It is being used on the darknet. Specifically, the drug darknet markets, it's dominating. It's not even a competition anymore. There are some people still using Bitcoin, even some people using stablecoins, but the adoption is very low. If you go on Dread, it's Monero dominance. However, it doesn't have the liquidity yet. And so for ransomware, Bitcoin's still used quite a bit. And it's just facts. It's just much more liquid. And plus a lot of these, hackers, these North Korean hackers or whatever, or like Eastern European people who are essentially fighting a proxy war against the United States because their government kind of turns a blind eye to them fucking around with our atrocious digital infrastructure, right? They're requesting oftentimes Bitcoin or Monero at a discount because obviously it's much easier to use Monero. But this is slowly starting to change. And we see this too, like whenever there's like a pump, the two big pumps that have happened recently, it looks like both of them were caused by some sort of hack that happened and someone just buying as much Monero as they can, as quickly as they can. Possible that it is some sort of false flag event. I'm not going to disagree with you guys on that necessarily. But the most likely scenario is that people are actually getting their Bitcoin stolen and, these attackers are funneling it at XMR. But because it's not liquid, it just pumps the price up immediately. Furthermore, with stablecoins, guys, has built up a ton of clout over the past couple years. Like it's actually like stablecoins are actually used, but people are about to find out that this is not going to last. And I actually have an article here that Circle froze. Let's see here. Let me pull it up. Circle froze the USDC balance in 16 hot wallets tied to an ongoing U.S. civil case, and that's per Zach XBT. Circle froze the USDC balance of 16 hot wallets for various businesses late yesterday. I spoke with one of the affected businesses directly, and they stated it was due to an ongoing U.S. civil case whose details are not yet disclosed. I reviewed the on-chain activity in the exchanges, casinos, forex businesses do not appear to be related at all to each other. Why was the request not properly reviewed by Circle? For those unfamiliar, a crypto business has a hot wallet to process the bulk of transactions for its users. And analysts with basic tools could have identified within minutes that these are operational business wallets from the thousands of transactions they process. Now their business operations have been negatively impacted by Circle, lawyer, forensics firm, and judge. Now, Circle did dump today. Let's see. Yeah, Circle is down 18 to 19% because this news just broke today. Now, what they're doing is they're complying with regulations. And it seems like they may have, I don't know, frozen some accounts they should not have frozen. Circle, of course, is a payments technology company founded by Jeremy Allaire and Sean Neville in 2013. And it issues two types of stablecoin, USDC, which has a conversion rate pegged to the US dollar, and EURC, which is euro-dominated. And, of course, USDC, very well known, pretty highly regarded, well-respected. Here, it's being frozen. How is it being frozen? It's because of these regulations that are passing in the United States. We're going to see this happen more and more. I reported about this a couple weeks ago in Venezuela. There was a news report where all these like millions and millions of dollars got frozen in stablecoins because they were like linked to, various criminals in Venezuela, or I think it was they were avoiding sanctions. And like this is very, very common where a lot of these criminals they're using stable coins because they don't like the volatility of crypto. So they're stashing it in something like USDC. Well, that's not going to work as easy in the future. What you're going to start to see is more and more high profile cases where they're just going to start freezing either Tether or USDC or what have you, because they have to comply to these regulations that are happening, that are being passed through Congress. And, they have to comply. They're major companies, and that's just what they're going to do. So short term, they're going to take a price hit, but long term, you would expect them to succeed because that's how these companies work. People haven't figured out yet that that's what happens with stablecoins. But yeah, like the Mexican cartels, for example, they use stablecoins for the most part. In China, they use a ton of stablecoins as well for criminal activity, pretty much around the world. I expect that to slowly start pouring into Monero because, it's just kind of inevitable where you have this project that is adopted on darknet markets and it's proven to work. It's probably going to start getting a lot of this stablecoin usage through it because it just works. And it's been proven to work. And it has that name recognition where now we're starting to see influencers talk about it. Yeah, it was like a couple months ago. No, it was back. It might have been like September last year when Nick Fuentes, he name dropped Monero. It's been name dropped by Roger Ver. We've been seeing Monero kind of name dropped on different podcasts. But when it's being name dropped, it's more like, well, it's a privacy tool, right? In this case, though, with Clavicular, it's very obvious to me that he's name dropping it as like, this is cool, and this is a big deal because once it gains that like cool factor, it's going to start to gain excitement from people who are drawn to the resistance and the defiance of cryptocurrency, that libertarian spirit, which is really what separates Monero from every other project out there. Because like, if you think about it, if Monero did not have its cypherpunk spirit, okay, if it didn't have, a bunch of nerds meeting up at Monerotopia, if it didn't have Darknet adoption, it would have the same kind of community as basically all the other cryptocurrencies at Monerotopia, like Firo and Xano. And I'm not dissing those projects necessarily. I'm just spitting facts here. People don't use Xano for pretty much anything other than speculation right now. Same with Firo. People are buying it. There might be some hobbyists out there who are, experimenting, trying out different things, but overwhelmingly the usage is speculation. Now, obviously, there's a lot of speculation in Monero as well. I'm not saying there's not, but we have the transaction data that backs up the fact that people actually want to use Monero, which in my opinion is driven by Darknet adoption, which has created this culture of using Monero and not really caring about the price as much as about the utility of it. And this really separates Monero from other projects because it's not just some speculative, pump and dump that, rides the Bitcoin cycle like all these other projects. It's actually performed pretty well against Bitcoin ever since it, really pump and dumped in 2018, where it was way overvalued. Now it's like leveled out and it's kind of just slowly rising, dealing with a lot of delistings, obviously, but actually fighting back against those and like showing that it has strength. Now, there was a second video by that was clipped from Clavicular, which is much more obvious. And I literally just saw this like 20 minutes ago. So it's kind of confirming the monologue that I had planned, actually. But basically, he finds the Twitter thread by CryptoT, who initially reported or initially clipped Clavicular, talking about Monero. And he doesn't say anything, but if you watch the clip, you'll know he's heavily hinting at the fact that, yeah, he's used Monero in the past, and he's used on darknet markets. It's kind of hard to explain. He keeps it subtle, but like it's, again, if you know, you know, and he's signaling that right now to his massive fan base, and that's only going to grow over time, guys. It's only going to continue to grow because Monero is building aura. Because the soul of cryptocurrency, it's not rooted in number go up Michael Saylor garbage. It's rooted in defiance of the state. And when you are actively fighting that and pushing back against these regulations and compliance and all that, you're actually sticking out in crypto. I mean, we were just talking about stablecoins. Yeah, you can't freeze a Monero transaction, right? You can't freeze a Bitcoin transaction either, unless, miners start to collude, which may happen with Foundry, for example, having a significant amount of the hash rate now. That might not take much longer, guys. Like, don't be surprised if that happens, because when you have these, massive companies, these massive ASIC companies, they're going to comply, just like all of these exchanges comply, just like any type of payment processor complies. Just like the stablecoin companies, it will not be surprising. But in contrast to that, the libertarian cypherpunk spirit, it lives on and in various projects, but especially within Monero. And that is just something that separates it. So it was cool to see this name dropped. And I expect more of these to happen over time. Hopefully, we can get some excitement, get more developers. That freaking hash rate, man, we got to get that up. And of course, we got to clean that code up as well. We need full chain membership proofs. Like, come on. But we got to be patient. And what we are doing, though, is we're being used. And that really matters more than pretty much anything else, actually, because being used in crypto, that's actually an anomaly. You know, it's not just a speculative, pumping up. All right, let's move on to the stablecoin yield bill that is passing the Crypto Clarity Act. So this is related to what we were just talking about, where stablecoin yield and Crypto Clarity Act won't allow rewards on balances. The latest text says. The crypto industry got a first look at legislative language that won't allow rewards on stablecoin balances, and the approach is seen as restrictive. The newest language on stablecoin yield in the Crypto Clarity Act has crypto insiders cringing, according to a source familiar with the industry's opening chance to see the text. Stablecoin yield, a point of contention between bankers and crypto platforms, was the subject of a compromise crafted by senators negotiating the bill. The latest version would grant rewards programs on a narrow basis as long as they don't resemble the interest from bank deposits in any way. The new language, which was announced Friday by Senators Angela Alsobrooks and Tom Tillis, would ban yield payments for simply holding a stablecoin. It would also restrict any approach that makes a program in any way equivalent to a bank deposit and applies further limits to other potentially allowed activities, the person said, adding that the mechanics of determining activities-based stablecoin rewards is left uncertain. The crypto industry got its first look at the bill at the Digital Asset Market Clarity Act on Monday in a closed-door review on Capitol Hill in Washington, representing an attempt to clear a roadblock in the effort to get a hearing in the Senate Banking Committee. Bankers had insisted that stablecoin rewards look nothing like interest-bearing bank deposits because they argued the competing project would hamstring the industry and strangle lending. Isn't that so sad that they can't just charge interest on... They can't just make money out of thin air and someone else is getting in on the grift? These fucking people, man. Do I want to finish this article? No, you guys get the idea. So basically, like, there's regulations all over stablecoins right now. All over stablecoins. And they don't really care about anything else in crypto right now. So, like, they toss a bone to, like, the Bitcoin people because they'll like, bring out Trump and he'll, like, shit his pants and, like, sign an order. Oh, executive order. We're going to make... crypto capital of the world. They don't fucking care. It's gonna say, oh, we're looking into having a strategic reserve. They never did that. Literally everything they've been doing in terms of, like, government. So really, like, ever since Trump has gotten into the office, it's really, they've just focused on stablecoins. It's kind of hilarious. And yeah, I mean, they passed the Genius Act, and that was a big deal. Now they're trying to get this Clarity Act through to help with, yield and stuff. But as usual, it's a bunch of just dinosaurs, and then they're lobbied by bankers. But now they're also being lobbied by stablecoin financial institutions. It's all lobbying BS. They'll probably reach a compromise, This is another regulation. That's going to be coming forward, or not a regulation, but a guidance, excuse me. So this is via the Rage. European Union prepares to issue standardized guidance for the surveillance of self-hosted wallets. The EU Anti-Money Laundering Authority, AMLA, is preparing to issue guidance for the technical requirements to surveil transactions between self-hosted wallets and accounts held with crypto asset service providers, CASPs. The guidance will lay out what steps CASPs must take to identify the owner of a self-custodial address as required by the EU's Transfer of Funds regulation in effect December 2024. The guidance will be issued by July 2027. And this is the actual wording. It says, by 10 July 2027, AMLA shall issue guidelines to specify the mitigating measures referred to in paragraph 1, including the criteria and means for identification and verification of the identity of the originator or beneficiary of a transfer made from or to a self-hosted address, including through reliance on third parties, taking into account the latest technological developments. And secondly, criteria and means for the verification of whether or not the self-hosted address is owned or controlled by a customer. Yeah, guys, I mean, this is the future. We're seeing now a slow creep across kind of everything, right? So with Discord, they're introduced like you need to have verification. Now we're seeing it with Linux, right? Which we're going to get to later on in the episode. You got Linux now even saying, hey guys, like you need to put your birthday in here. It's totally optional now, guys. Yeah, it's not going to be like forced in the future, right? We're totally being serious, guys. Absolute garbage. And now this is at much more severe, where they're looking at self-hosted wallets, wallets that you have on your own computer, and they're trying to see, guidance for, what do we need? What tactical requirements do we need to like monitor transactions? Yeah, this is going to happen, and eventually we will reach a point where just everything's going to have KYC on it. So this is just another strike against the good guys. Of course, the EU, they've been really leading the charge for being really dystopian, especially lately. Of course, with their guidance of calling end-to-end encryption related to terrorism. Like, what? Yeah, we're not that far away from wallets being KYC only. Or at least that's how they're going to be legally seen. And what's probably going to happen is the legal wallets will only be allowed to interact with exchanges. So if you want to onboard into crypto, you have to like go through those steps. I'm not sure how that's going to actually work though. And it's definitely not going to stop Monero. So they can try, I guess, but I mean, have fun trying, I guess. I don't know. All right, it's time to take a quick break from the news and kick it over to our sponsor this week, WebWipe. WebWipe removes information off the web and locks down your digital identity. So when you were in college and you wore that pink tutu when you were drunk and your friends took pictures of you, it's all over the internet now. They're going to find those pictures and they're going to erase them. They're going to protect you from being made fun of at the office by your friends who are busting your balls. We don't want that, right? So they are going to do everything they can to work with you to figure out what artifacts you've left lying around. So, maybe there's an article that it's making it difficult for you to get a job. There's other doxing information. WebWipe will remove that. Additionally, maybe you want to just get some consultation on having a more private digital life. You need that kind of push in the right direction. They'll help you out. Additionally, and this is pretty cool, if you've lost access to a crypto wallet or you've been a victim of theft, they can help you recover your funds. So they got these like programs that they run. So if you lose a couple seed words, they can actually crack into that baby. So yeah, I mean, maybe you're a whale and you can't access a wallet. Well, there you go. You can now recover your funds. So check them out at webwipe.io or follow them on X at webwipemedown. See where their next privacy meetups will be hosted. Thank you, WebWipe. All right, well, let's keep on trucking here. We do have some more news, and then we'll finish up the show doing Systemd talk as well as I got one super chat this week as well. But first, we're talking about Michael Saylor. I mean, this guy's out of his mind. And he announced this week that he's planning a $42 billion capital raise to fund Bitcoin purchases. The article here from Yahoo Finance says serial crypto currency acquirer Strategy has announced a new plan to raise $42 billion to help fund future Bitcoin purchases. Strategy, led by Chairman Michael Saylor, plans to raise the money through the issuance of its Class A common stock and issuance of its perpetual preferred stock called Stretch. The two stock sales will aim to raise $21 billion US for the company. As of March 22nd, Strategy still had $6.24 billion of MSTR stock, or MSTR common stock, remaining on its current at-the-market equity raise program. The company is raising more money to continue its aggressive Bitcoin buying program. In the past week, Strategy purchased another 1,031 Bitcoin, bringing its total holdings to 762,000 Bitcoins worth $54.1 billion. Strategy has continued buying Bitcoin as its price has slumped over the past 6 months, despite criticisms about its continued stock sales and dilution of existing shareholders. MSTR is currently trading at $136, and Bitcoin is at $69,000. Both of those are down on the day, and MSTR is down over 59% over the past 12 months. So this type of behavior is really just making it so obvious this guy is just going to take as much money as possible from the marks out there who just simp for this guy. And he doesn't really care what conclusions are going to be reached. Or maybe he's actually delusional and thinks that he's going to succeed in becoming the ultimate Bitcoin bank. I guess it could happen. I don't know. Here's the thing though, guys. If you recall recently, there was the MSTR stock was like at $100, right? And at the time, it was becoming apparent that they were starting to like kind of run out of money, right? And so everyone was kind of saying, hey, it's not a big deal. Not a big deal, guys. Because MicroStrategy, they don't have to pay for like another like 16 months. So they got time. They got time for Bitcoin to dump down. It can dump to like $9,000. Then we'd have to sell Bitcoin. But until that happens, we're just going to keep buying. But 16 months from now, they're going to have to start paying a lot more money. And that's when they're going to have to start dipping into their dollar reserves. Now, it doesn't say here if they are increasing their dollar reserves. They absolutely have to. Because otherwise, like, they're going to be kind of pretty close. Because the thing is, as these yields accumulate over time, it's going to get harder and harder to pay all of them unless Bitcoin is really skyrocketing. And the simps for Saylor, they think Bitcoin's going to be like $1 bajillion in the not so different future. They think they're the people who were saying that Bitcoin would reach $1 million this cycle. And they haven't realized that it's diminishing returns. So you're having diminishing returns on top of these, lofty expectations. And now you're increasing the amount of perpetual preferred stock you're giving out, which comes with yield payments. So where are you going to get that money to pay all that as well? So what's the updated calculation now? Is it 16 months from now they're going to have to start, making money? When does it all end? Because at a certain point, they got to start paying people. And where's the money going to come from? People have been calling it an infinite money glitch, like fucking retards. Eventually, the music stops, guys. You're going to have bear markets. And we're having diminishing returns. And all these people who have been like hyper bullish on Bitcoin, they're going to get wrecked. As it is, MicroStrategy has already gone wrecked. Stock is way down. I wouldn't be surprised if Saylor gets sued because he is diluting the shit out of that stock. So he's diluting the stock and just wrecking the shareholders. And now he's increasing his the amount of yield he has to be paying out. Where's he getting the money? Where's it coming from? At a certain point, he will have to sell Bitcoin, and it's going to have a cascading effect. And, it's going to be one of those things where all these podcasters are going to be like, oh, it was so obvious the entire time. Because they can't fucking think for themselves. But because Saylor has this reputation, they're going to just all fall in line. Now, I will say, though, Saylor's reputation has taken a huge hit. And he's going to have a rough couple years here, because if Bitcoin does not reach anywhere close to what he's expecting, which it probably won't, he's screwed. There is no good way out of this. And, as it is, they have a significant issue with raising dollars, because the only way they raise more dollars is by selling more preferred stocks or stocks. That's the only way they're making money. They don't have any revenue coming in. It is a definition of a pyramid scheme. The new money, the dumb money is coming in, and they're just throwing money at this for these junk yield bonds, which, by the way, Saylor can just turn off. That's another thing he's probably going to pull in the future. Although, if he does, stop paying those, like, obviously, the stock would tank. There'd be a lot of controversy. But read the fine print. He can actually stop paying the yield if he wants to. And people kind of went along with it because everyone's believing everything Saylor's saying. This type of, nastiness in the financial world is everything wrong with crypto right now. But it's really everything wrong with, derivatives and, if you've seen The Big Short, it's the same thing. They have so much money and it's so easy to access. They're just fucking around. And they know, these financial institutions, that is, they know they'll just get bailed out. And so, same thing with Saylor. He knows that he's fine. He's already made billions. The only thing that will screw him, though, is if he does get sued. I don't know exactly what for, but I have a feeling that this guy who has run into problems in the past, accounting problems, where he had to pay a $40 million something fine, I have a feeling that he hasn't learned that much. And if that happens again, don't be surprised. All right. That's our monthly Saylor rant. Fucking hate this guy, man. It is going to be vindication. You know what? If Saylor goes under, I'm just going to have 60 minutes of this podcast of me just hitting the air horn. That's all it's going to be. It's me hitting the air horn. That's all you're going to hear. And, all right. Everyone's going to not like that episode probably, but I don't care. All right. Next up, important PSA. A scammer has taken control of the samouraiwallet.com domain. So do not be fooled into downloading the malicious software. This is from Econo Alchemist on Twitter, known as Burn the Bridge. He's been always tweeting about Samurai Wallet throughout the years. But he also said it's ironic that the FBI seizes control over the domain, only for it to fall into the hands of actual criminals. Well, the FBI, they are the actual criminals, as Free Russ at Free Russ now tweets in response. So yeah, I don't know how this happened, but samouraiwallet.com. I'm not going to link it in the description because I don't want you to click the link, but it is it's compromised. So be careful out there, guys. So next up, we're going to talk about the latest in the age verification drama. And, really about Systemd that happened only 1 or 2 days after I released my last podcast, which had a good 30 minutes talking about Linux age verification. And so basically, if you didn't listen to last week's episode, I had a whole bit on the creep that we're having of age verification laws now affecting operating systems. And yes, it's even affecting Linux. And the idea here is that age verification is the first step towards having digital ID. It's a slow creep. It's a boiling frog is really what it is. Oh, it's only an optional, birthday, who cares? yeah, but what's next? Soon it's not going to be optional. Soon they're going to want more and more and more. And eventually you're going to have your ID completely linked to any time you're accessing the internet. And I mean, we talked about this earlier today with wallets, like the Monero, the EU, having laws about how to trace transactions in self-hosted wallets. Like, this is happening across the board, or, with Discord, right? So this is the latest attack on computer usage. And yeah, age verification in Linux, it's a problem. So last week I showed a website, Ageless Linux, which I really like. I will be using it as a source today, as well as the Lunduke Journal. A shout out to both of them. But this is a big story because as a community, we have to do everything we can to push back. And I gotta say, it has been like that. Like, everyone's pushing back. It's great to see the Linux community so united. I feel like 99% of people are just saying fuck this, which is good to see, because this is just this sucks. It really sucks. Now, here's where it gets worse, though. So that was last week, just talking about these laws. And the laws, by the way, they're coming in like California, where they're going to now request any operating system to have you input your birthday and have it linked to API. Essentially, it'll bracket your birth date depending on how old you are with this API. So if you're between, I forget what it was like 13 and 16 years old, they would put you in one bracket, and then 16 and 18, they put you in another. 18 plus, you'll get in another. And and also, younger than 13, it would be another bracket, etc. So that was proposed. You also had different app stores now having to potentially ask for your identification, or at least some sort of identification, your age, for example. And that's also being lobbied right now in the United States government. So I had a whole thing. You can check out that episode last week. It was like a good portion of my show. I talked about it. But then a couple days after the podcast, might have even been the next day, I don't remember, the news came out that Systemd had added a pull request for a birth date field to JSON user records. It's pull request 40954. Explicitly cites AB 1043, which is the California legislation, COSB 26051, I believe that's the Colorado legislation, and Brazil Lei 15.211, which is a law in Brazil. A community revert attempt, which is pull request 41179, was rejected by Leonard Pottering, who called the field optional and stated Systemd enforces zero policy. The conversation was locked after 945 comments. Coordinates with the XDG desktop portal PR number 1922, which is Open Age Range Portal API. This is the data layer, the emerging age verification stack, and affects all Systemd-based distributions. So basically, what is happening is Systemd is being used to push the age verification to the majority of Linux distributions. And I believe the number is like 95% of Linux distributions use Systemd. It's pretty much ubiquitous with Linux at the moment. And, to be honest with you guys, so let's back up here. What is Systemd? Well, it is a init system. Init stands for initialization. And it's the very first process that happens during the boot, when your computer's booting. So it essentially, It manages the startup of services, daemons, and system resources in parallel, and it leads to faster boot times because of that. That parallel part of it is very much promoted. What else here? It says, this is from the Brave search engine. I just typed this in just to get an easy summary here. It says, it provides centralized control over services, logging via journal D, device management, which is UDEV, network configuration, network D, login sessions, login D, and even cron-like scheduling. Its use of unifiles simplifies service management across distributions. Now, I've always used Systemd. So I've been using Linux now like 8 years. I really have no problem with this. Like, I don't really mind that it combines different things because, like, honestly, it just makes it easier. And I've never had any issues with Systemd. It's easy to use. So, like, the shit posting about Systemd, I've honestly like leaned into it, and I would call myself a Systemd Chad just to kind of, again, lean into it and kind of poke fun at the situation. But like I've always just used it, just because like the distributions I've used, which at this point is Ubuntu and Arch, they both use Systemd, and I've used servers as well, which use Systemd. So the init system, it's the very first process that runs. It's essential for your system. There are other init systems as well, such as OpenRC and Runit, and those are provided by other distributions. Now, the thing is, despite this massive adoption, it remains controversial for several reasons. Excuse me. First is the violation of the Unix philosophy, because the Unix philosophy is basically you should do one thing and do it well. And I just kind of explained it's doing networking, device management. It's got like a bunch of different things kind of involved with it. So it's too big. The other issue is something like portability issues. So Systemd only works for Linux, does not run on other Unix-like systems, such as BSD, which reduces interoperability across Unix platforms. There are controversial development practices, criticisms of the disregard for backward compatibility, for example. And because it's so ubiquitous, it's just like, it's hard for other init systems to work or other desktops to function without it. So basically, the conspiracy that's been kind of said is that it's this somewhat of a Trojan horse to kind of get a clamp on Linux and then push it towards, the bad side. Yes, it's open source, but it's also compromised. And I've rolled my eyes at this narrative for a while. But you know what? The schizos, it looks like they were right. I was wrong. And I've kind of just like looked at this as like a kind of a nothing burger, but now it's definitely something. And now we have to kind of react to this. So yeah, it's kind of a lot to unpack, and this is going to have a big impact on the Linux community and also just the distributions people are using. And I'm going to flat out say it. I am moving away from Arch out of protest. And I know a lot of other people have already done this. And it's a very important moment because we cannot take this lightly. And I gotta say, the Linux community has done a pretty good job. There's been a shitload of pushback. People are not happy. And we're definitely going to fight back on this because this is outrageous. And, why is it outrageous? Well, put it this way. Why is it that the first instinct from, someone like Ubuntu is not to immediately fight this? Why are someone like Fedora, why are they going along with this? Why is Arch going along with this? In fact, they're accused of censoring discussion on their forums. Yeah, I don't know. But we got a line in the sand here, and that is anything even somewhat related to digital ID is a no-go, and that includes age verification, and we are not going to comply with that. Simple as. We're not going to give him an inch. You give an inch, they take a mile. This is a tweet from Ricardo XMR, my homie, fellow Monero guy. He said, I have never really cared about init systems before, but systemd's compliance with age verification, when they aren't even an OS, demonstrates a willingness to comply with tyranny, which completely betrays free and open source software as a philosophy and tool for human freedom. I think that hits the nail on the head. There's absolutely no reason to implement this other than you're complying. You want to comply. That's it. There's literally no other reason. It's open source, right? I did read one comment. I forget where. I have this copied down. Sorry, I'm going to just read it because it's a good comment. Someone suggested that the reason that a lot of these distros are kind of silently going along with this, and we're going to read through the list on ageless Linux, by the way, because there's some updates there. But one of the suggestions is the reason that different distros are going along with this is because legal counsel, or they're guessing that legal counsel said to them that discussion on forums and stuff and through email, it's only going to hurt their case. And what they have to do is they have to kind of get together, decide what they want to do and what legally they have to do. And having that conversation in public will make it difficult for them when it goes to court or if it goes to court. And I am positive that this will be fought in court. Like eventually, maybe not this specifically, but eventually digital ID is going to get fought. And it's important that a lot of these companies play it smart. So that's kind of the counter argument. I give it some credit. There is some point to that. But at the same time, like I don't want to play that game. Like I'm just not going to comply immediately. And so because of that, I'm going to practice what I'm preaching here. I will be switching to Artix probably this weekend, which is a fork of Arch, which doesn't use systemd. And I encourage everyone here to do the same thing. Because that's the thing. So if you want to help out with this, if you want to push back against this, you have to, first off, switch off your distro if it's using systemd. This is line in the sand. It's been crossed. No negotiation here. The second thing I would recommend is to donate to projects that aren't complying. Give them your support. Now, Artix, they accept Monero, which is actually, it's probably the main reason I'm switching to that. I was also looking at Void, which is another fork of Arch that I do think looks great. But yeah, Artix, they accept Monero donations, which I will be donating to because I support the fact that they aren't complying. And, we have to just refuse any negotiation with this. Line in the sand, we're not negotiating, and we're going to fight it in court. Now, one thing I will say is you have a subset of the open source supporters who they think this is pointless. They're saying, who cares? We'll just patch it. Whatever. They kind of hand wave it away. And it's like, listen. Yeah, no shit. We can very easily patch it. Ageless Linux, for example, patched it. There was another systemd thing I saw on GitHub. I don't have a link to it. There's already different things, right? There's already different fixes to this. That's not the problem. The problem is the boiling frog. And we have to push back because otherwise they're just going to roll over us. And I want you to think back during the encryption wars in the 90s, because can you imagine if we lost that case where code has been put forth now as free speech? Can you imagine if we lost that case? It would have been devastating. But we won it because we were right. And so likewise, we have to push back against this, and it will be eventually fought in courts. I'd be surprised if it doesn't. And when that happens, we will have to really do everything we can to donate and support, this process as it goes through the courts. It is absolutely worth it to fight it in court. And I get it. We don't trust politicians generally. We don't trust the state. I get it. But there's legitimate wins that we can have if we fight back. And there's simple things I just suggested where, download a different distro. Vote with your downloads. You know what I mean? Vote with your downloads. Donate to projects that aren't doing this. If you are donating to a project that is doing this, stop your donations. You vote with your money. Yeah, sure, Canonical and Red Hat, they're going to get a ton of money from, Google or whatever. Fine. No longer recommend anything that uses Systemd. This is just, again, line in the sand. We have to promote this. This is how I feel, at least. But I think as a Linux community, this is the best way going forward. And we're still kind of figuring it out right now. It's possible that this will be a nothing burger and it'll get removed, but I don't know, guys. From my point of view, it does not look good. So this is from Ageless Linux. Their updates for different distros. These are their updates for different distros and how they're reacting. There has been some updates. Canonical says, reviewing internally with legal counsel, but no concrete plans on how or even whether Ubuntu will change. Debian, active discussion on Debian legal. Debian, no update. They're talking about it on Debian/legal. Fedora/Red Hat. The leader, Jeff Spalletta, proposed a measured approach, local file in Etsy, populated during account creation, local dbus API, no telemetry, no mechanism shipped or formally adopted. System 76/Pop! OS. CEO Carl Ritchell published a blog post opposing mandates as technically ineffective. He met with Colorado co-author Senator Matt Ball. Senator suggested excluding open source software from SB 26-051, and they're actively lobbying. However, they will support it. So they're supporting it, and that if it passes, they're going to implement it. But they're speaking out against it as they're opposing it, and they're lobbying against it. So some may argue that this is not good enough. Their CEO posted a blog post. You can go read it. It is true, though, that hopefully these major Linux companies will actively lobby against this. Arch Linux, no official response. So no update there. Now, update from Hunix. Most recent public statement is that Kicksecure and Hunix are currently unlikely to implement an age API. This may later be updated to highly unlikely or no changes planned. Original plans were to store only age bracket data, not birth dates, with user-triggered updates when they crossed bracket boundaries. Privacy researchers have questioned whether any age verification mechanism is compatible with privacy-focused operating systems. Yeah, that whole Hunix thing was very weird. I don't know why the hell they even slightly endorsed adding something like that. Talk about just ruining any good faith that project has. I mean, they're walking it back now, but whatever. Midnight BSD, no update. They're excluding downloads, though, from California and Brazil. So they're putting geographic restrictions, which will be very easy to get around. Omarchi Linux rejected compliance outright. No plans to implement anything in response to age verification mandates. Based. Yeah, Omarchy, that is an Arch fork. I've never used it, but that's cool. Adenix, they also refused it. They declared it will not implement H-checks. Artix, developer Nouse or Noose. I think it's Nouse. Anyway, the developer said, we'll never require any H verification or identification from the user. Systemd free fork of Arch. The user database birth date field does not exist on Artix systems. Gigabased. NixOS, no official response. Declarative configuration model has no imperative installer flow for H prompts. Copyright held by NixOS contributors under statute 1798.500G. Every contributor is arguably an OS provider. So no response there. They're staying silent. Graphene OS, public statement. Graphene OS will remain usable by anyone around the world without requiring personal information, identification, or an account. Graphene OS and our services will remain available internationally. If Graphene OS devices can't be sold in the region due to the regulation, so be it. Android AOSP based, not Linux, but the stance applies to the same statutes. That is Gigabased. Love Graphene, big supporter of them. Definitely donate. SteamOS, they're still silent. And of course, Ageless Linux, they refused. They then have a couple reversion guides if you want to just remove what they're adding. And, this kind of goes back to why I'm encouraging people to switch. I don't really support just putting a Band-Aid on this. I think if there's enough people who are just saying, no, I'm putting my donations and my support elsewhere, that should have an impact. Maybe not a massive impact, but enough of a signal that, hey, we're not going to take this crap, which is why I'm supportive of that. A couple other things that I saw that I'm going to just kind of briefly mention before moving on from this topic essentially age verification. I saw this on Twitter. I wrote this down. I don't have the Twitter handle, but it was regarding Bill Gates, and someone said the guy who slept with Epstein's hookers wants to KYC your computer. Yeah, that's what it is, man. These guys are all fucking scumbags, and now they're going after our First, Fourth, and Ninth Amendment rights. Fuck them. Another thing, Systemd, there was a vulnerability that was found like literally last week, and it was pretty bad. Let me pull it up actually. So yeah, Ubuntu CVE 2026-3888, timing flaw in Systemd cleanup enables root privilege escalation. So the attack works in a simple but smart way and does not require complex steps. Ubuntu automatically deletes all files from the temp directory after a certain number of days. During this cleanup, an important directory used by snap-confine may get removed. This creates an opportunity for the attacker to act. Once the directory is deleted, the attacker quickly recreates it with malicious content. These files are placed in a way that tricks the system into trusting them. When a snap application runs again, the system may load these files. Since snap confine runs with higher privileges, the attacker's code gets executed as root. One important point is that this attack does not need any user interaction. It also works silently in the background without showing clear warning signs. The only requirement is time, as the attacker must wait for the cleanup process. But once successful, the attacker gains complete control over this system. The vulnerability mainly affects Ubuntu Desktop 24.04 and newer versions using Snapd. Older versions are generally safe unless configured in a similar way. To fix the issue, Ubuntu has released updates for Snapd. Versions below 2.73 and 2.74.1 are affected and should be updated immediately. So there you have it. This flaw is dangerous because it allows an attacker with limited access to gain full root privileges. And root access means complete control over your system. It was discovered by security researchers at Quai during their analysis and has been given a high severity rate with a CVSS score of 7.8. Even though the attacker starts with low-level access, they can escalate their privileges, which makes this vulnerability risky. The main issue behind this issue is the interaction between these two system components, that being snap confine and the systemd-temp files. And we got two more here. This is Reddit. They are attempting to add ID verification methods to combat its bot problem. I mean, all right. Yeah, I don't think that's going to fix anything. But this is what it is. The walls are closing in. And we just do not comply. Like anything that even suggests age verification, or worse, in this case, identity verification, ignore, stop using. And lastly, we'll leave off with something funny here. The UK fined 4chan, and 4chan responded with a with a Godzilla-sized hamster, or a picture of a Godzilla-sized hamster. It says here, United Kingdom fines 4chan £520,000. 4chan responds with Godzilla-sized hamster. 4chan's lawyer then said, the United Kingdom lost the American Revolutionary War. Stop sending American stupid letters and acknowledge the sovereignty of the United States. That's freaking hilarious. Love it. But yeah, this is the upcoming battleground, guys. Buckle in, because this is the opening fanfare. Okay, let's now go to Superchats, xmrchat.com/Xenu if you'd like to participate. And we got one donation this week. This was from Anon, who gives 0.01 XMR. Thank you. And they say, I read the entire Quai network documentation. The tech is genius. You need to read it as well. I would love to hear your thoughts on it. Not an alternative to Monero, because the privacy is not as strong, but I'd still recommend people check it out. Well, thank you, Anon. Yeah, I mean, I quickly looked at it. Looks like a lot of buzzwords, I'll be honest with you. And what I'll say to this, I don't really look for new projects, specifically projects that are based on the tech. This is a mistake I think a lot of people make, where I'm not saying the technology of it isn't bad, but the culture of it, the culture is just much more important. That's what you kind of have to understand here. And, if they have like cool things, that's fine, but that's not going to really get my attention. And it's not going to get the attention of regular people. So it seems to me this is mostly a speculative pump and dump. And yeah, I'm not really that impressed by it, to be honest with you. So I don't really have much more to say here. I mean, maybe they have some cool things. I don't know, but this kind of just seems like vaporware. All right, well, I'm going to end the show there. Thanks to everyone who stuck around. Hey, if you're still sticking around, how about you send a donation to xmrchat.com/Xenu, or you can subscribe to my channel. We're going to have a lot more content incoming over the next few months. A lot more stuff happening. Thanks for listening, guys. I'll see you next week.